All right, in 3, 2, 1. And welcome everyone to this episode of the Real Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Edwards. Joining us today, folks, is the founder of Mackey, Prosperity People, and Why Settle. Please welcome Miss Mackey McNeill. Mackey, thanks for being with us today.
It's great to be here, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So at the Mo Summit here, talking a lot about regeneration and impact, what does being an impact leader mean to you?
For me, being an impact leader means that your purpose is making some major transformation in the world, that you have a big idea of how to change the needle in some field. Of course, in our field, it's about money and business. That's what it means to me.
And you've dealt with a lot of entrepreneurs, helping them balance their books. What have been some of the experiences and the lessons that you've learned along your way as it pertains to profitability and purpose?
Well, I think what's most important to remember is that profitability and purpose really go hand in hand. I think the traditional thinking is that if you're going to live your life on purpose, maybe you're going to give up some money. You're going to sacrifice in some way. You're going to be a teacher or a minister. But I believe in today's environment, that's the totally wrong thinking, that we can actually drive purpose in a business. And it's even more effective because we can really control that business and manage very quickly to make change, unlike you can in other environments. So I think we have an opportunity to really use purpose to attract team, to build our business model around the purpose, and to make a transformational difference for our customers or clients.
And from your experience, where have you seen profitability get in the way of fulfilling one's purpose?
Well, I would say I work with small business owners, and rarely have I seen profitability get in the way. Most of the time, I would say they struggle with profitability. I think because they primarily don't understand the nuts and bolts. So really this misunderstanding about what does it really take to drive my business. The traditional playbook that small business owners adopt is often grow sales, sell more customers, sell more clients, and the bottom line will follow. And most of the time that doesn't work because there's a lot between the top and the bottom that has to be managed too. So they don't have the right indicators, they don't have the right data, they don't have the right decision-making methodology to really drive results. And so they get to the end of the year and they're like, I worked harder, I made, my top line was up 20%, but my bottom line's kind of flat. That's more traditionally what I see. But it's an opportunity. What we talked about today is every obstacle is an opportunity. So if you've got some momentum there, it's really about managing what's happening in your business. So it was putting together a robust financial operating system. It's what we do in our business, and driving it with 5 different types of data so people can begin to see what are the consequences of their choices. So they're making very good choices, and they're making the kind of choices that really do drive that bottom line. And then they can have a nice problem with profit.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this methodology. Mm-hmm. You've got the 3 freedoms of prosperity. Tell our audience a little bit about your work.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks for asking. Well, our purpose, our goal is to help business owners achieve the 3 freedoms of prosperity. Because I've seen business owners fail and I've seen business owners succeed, and I'd much rather see them succeed. I'm fascinated by business and why it is. And when I was young, I thought, why is it that some people do so well and some people do so bad? So I spent my life trying to figure out what the differences are. So I developed the 3 freedoms of prosperity as thinking about what is it that really makes a person feel good about where they are. It's not just about making money, but that's one of them. Certainly the money, right? We have to have money freedom. But we also have to have time freedom. And so often business owners forfeit time as they're growing their business. They work insane hours. They give up time with their family and their friends and for themselves. And then lastly, freedom from worry. Without good data, without knowing really how to make decisions with their data systems, they often shoot in the dark, make a gut decision, which is really not the best way to go about it. In other words, not if you want to make more money.
And how does one, this may seem like a trite question, but how does one make more money and maximize profitability? You talk a lot about margins in this playbook. How have you worked with other business owners to make sure that they can increase their margins in a purposeful way?
Yeah. Well, when we have a new client, the very first thing we do is we go through a process called the 4 ways to grow your business. And we do focus on margin. We focus on sales, but we focus on margin. And so I'll talk about the 4 ways. The first way is the way we think. We grow more customers, right? So that's the first way we can grow our business. But it's also the most expensive way. So when we grow more customers, we have to spend more money to get those customers, and that's an expensive way to grow our business. The second way is to sell more frequently to the customers we have. So if you're selling to them 3 times a year, can you sell to them 4 times a year? And the third way is to sell more each time you do sell. So how do you increase the average sale? So if your average sale is $5,000, how do you turn it to $5,500? So the fourth way is the magic way to improve the efficiency in every process of your business. So how do you get more out of the investments that you're making in people and technology and space by really honing in on efficiency? It's not a sexy way, so it's not something that naturally comes to mind, but it's very effective. And we do all those. What happens mathematically is we'll improve our margin, so sales minus cost of goods sold, we'll improve our gross margin, and if we then manage our overhead, which is our more fixed cost, we'll increase our bottom line. And I've seen clients go through this process within, a few hours. We'll take the management team through it. Within a few hours, we'll have gotten 40, 50, 60 ideas. We'll sort and filter them, and often we come up with ideas that are immediately actionable, that immediately impact the bottom line. And I've seen people walk away with, okay, these 2 ideas are going to put $200,000 more on our bottom line. These 2 ideas are going to put $500,000 on our bottom line. It's pretty phenomenal. I think often people have the ideas, but they don't have the time or the sorting and filtering tool to figure out what should they do next. It is about prioritizing and focusing.
And for the business owners that you're working with, doing these 4 different strategies, what's the biggest resistance that you face after they've gone through the workshop, they have their ideas, it could work? What's the resistance that you face from these business owners?
I say the resistance usually comes before that. Once they go through the 4 ways of workshop, these are very simple ideas, but simple ideas can be very powerful. But the resistance comes from, you start talking to them about, we can make a difference in your business. You can really make more money, transition, work less time. One is they'll say, I'm too busy for that. That's one resistance. They'll say, you don't understand my business, or I really am working as hard as I can. There'll be a lot of excuses. And I would say I call it arguing for my limitations. If you always do what you always have done, you'll always get what you've always got. And I know that's really not good English, but it's the very big truth, right? So if we're not getting the results we want in our business, we have to think differently. And sometimes that requires somebody from the outside, because if you're stuck and you've got your blinders on and you're focused right here, the problem might not be right in front of you. You might need to step back and get a bigger vision. And that's what the Grow 4 Ways process does. It says, let's step back from here and see, is our problem really marketing? Or is it more about our messaging? Is it more about really the pricing that we put in place? Is it about the margin that we're creating? Do we need to improve our efficiency? What really is holding us back?
From the accountant's perspective, when you kind of itemize where we're failing, where we're hurting, where we're doing really good, to you, do you have a favorite or an important line item that you make sure you emphasize each time to the business owner?
Well, one of them, of course, is margin. If I emphasize one thing, I guess my favorite places to look. Where are the places to look that profitability is eking? The first place to look is pricing on the top line. Maybe selling more, but often people haven't really taken a good look at what's their pricing say about their product. Is it in line? If they're selling a product that's better than average in the marketplace, are they selling it at average? Are they selling it below? They may not even have their pricing aligned with the value of that product in the marketplace. Or they'll have that price based on cost. And price and cost don't go together. You have to sell it above cost, for sure, but you should be selling based on value. And that's value in the eyes of your customer, not you. So you might not even really know what that is. If you're not getting any no's from your customer, then you're selling below margin. You're selling below price that you should be anyway. So that's the first thing. Are we taking advantage of price? And it may be that we have ancillary products that are underpriced. It may be that our main product is underpriced. So we look at a variety of ways. So how are we thinking about pricing? Then how are we thinking about margin? What are we doing in terms of our cost? Can we eke out? If you have a $5 million company and you can out a couple of points of margin, you can make some dramatic difference on your bottom line just by tweaking a little bit of maybe your labor cost, your subcontractor cost, your material cost, whatever your business you're in. And just making those small changes can make big changes on your bottom line. I have a case study that I put together for our learning model that shows that if we just tweak here and there, we can double our bottom line. It's really just math, but it's not math that people sit down and actually think about. And the last place is overhead. That's where people go first, but it's usually not the place that there's much opportunity. I mean, overhead is overhead. You may or may not have to have space. Let's face it, COVID has changed that. But you have to have liability insurance. You have to have licenses and fees. You have to have some attorney fees. You're going to pay your accountant. You're going to have some overhead. So you can work on overhead. You can certainly manage overhead. So what I advocate is, control your overhead, plan your overhead, but then stay within your plan and focus on growing your margin.
You're one of the only accountants that smile when you're talking about a business going under, and I just love that. For you personally, why do you continue to do the things that you do? The educational route, the courses. How is this wrapped around your purpose, and why do you like doing it so much?
Well, as I said, I worked with small business owners when I was young, so I saw them fail and succeed, and I just was deeply curious about what this different was and what was the superpower. So then I was blessed to have businesses let me practice and iterate with them, and I found things that worked and I found things that didn't. And as I began to put the entire financial operating system together, and we proved that these systems will work, and we iterated on that, our business took a whole nother turn, and it was my dream come true, I guess that's what I would say. It's like, this was the best I could imagine, is that allowing people to achieve different lives. Because when a business owner, if you're a business owner, you're impacting all your communities. And what are your communities? Well, you're impacting yourself, you're impacting your family, you're impacting your team, and you're impacting your community. So the way I look at it is, if we make a small difference or a bigger difference for a business leader, we make a big difference in many other areas. It's ancillary, but their difference alone is dramatically magnified.
And for the people watching this across the country that you'll never see the rest of your life, what's the message that you have for them today?
That's a really good question. I think what the message I would have for them is the most important message that they may or may not have thought about, is that good financials and good data can be the difference between having an average company and a stellar company. And often, you talked about resistance. I think there is some resistance in many, many business owners to investing in having good data. They think, and they don't sometimes know what is good data. They think they have someone who's taking care of it, but they don't. Usually the internal bookkeeper does the best that they can, but they may not have the kind of expertise that's really needed to drive good data. And then building out a robust financial operating system. So you have both your historical data, your big idea, your hope here data, your plan data. What are you going to plan to do? How are you going to begin to forecast? And that you're sharing that data with your team on a regular basis, so everybody in your office is involved with making those numbers. If you do build that data set and begin to share it with your team, and it creates magic for sure in the business, because everybody wants to help you. Your team wants to help you succeed. They just don't know what the numbers are, because you haven't shared them, and sometimes the business owner really doesn't know what the numbers are. So I would say that investing in your data, investing in creating good data systems is magic.
It's a great message to a lot of the leaders listening to this out there. Mackey, let's bring this home. What is your definition of a real leader?
I think a real leader is a purpose-driven leader, a leader who has a purpose and focuses their service or product offerings inside of that. So, my own example is, again, my purpose is to deliver the three freedoms of prosperity. So I have three companies, and they're to some extent serve different marketplaces, but they all help business owners achieve the three freedoms of prosperity. If I was getting involved in something that didn't, I wouldn't get involved. So that's kind of my definition. If you have a purpose and that's what you lead with, that's what you build for. That's what you build your product and service around.
Love it. Well, Mackey, thank you so much for coming back on the show today. For Mackey McNeill, I'm Kevin Edwards, asking you to go out there, find your purpose, and always, folks, keep it real. Thanks, Mackey. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin.